Hi all, hope you all are doing good. So today we are going to discuss about trophic ecology. Have you heard about trophic ecology? Okay, let me ask you some familiar words. Have you heard about food chain or food web? If so, we are talking about trophic ecology. So, trophic ecology is nothing but it is a study of feeding relationships, that is, who eats whom, and also the transfer of energy and exchange of nutrients between various living organisms in an ecosystem. So, what is an ecosystem? An ecosystem is a community where all living beings interact with each other and also interact with their non living environment. How they interact with their non living environment? For example, plants interact with the sun, so they get the sunlight, water, and produce their own food. So, this is how interaction with the non living environment happens. So, this community is known as ecosystem. And you should be knowing one more thing called trophic level. So, trophic level, it shows the position or the hierarchy of the organism in the food chain. So, a food chain is something which shows the flow of energy from one organism to another. So, trophic level is showing the position of each of the organism in that particular food chain. You'll be knowing about this trophic level as we move further and discuss about the food chain. Okay, so next, what we are going to see is we are going to discuss about the two broad categories based on the modes of nutrition. So now if you see here, this is the classification which is based on the modes of nutrition. That is how they are getting their food. Either they are preparing their own food or they are getting it from external source. So based on that mode, it is broadly divided into the living organisms are divided into autotrophs and heterotrophs. So, what are autotrophs? Autotrophs are the organisms which prepare their own food. They are also called as producers. All your trees, plants, algae, and certain bacteria, all these produce their own food. So, they are called as producers and they fall under the category called autotrophs. The all other category, uh, the animals which or the organisms which cannot produce their own food are called as heterotrophs. So they fall under this category called heterotrophs because they cannot produce their own food. They depend on the other organisms, whether living or dead, for food. They are also called as consumers. So all these animals like rabbit, fox, birds like eagle, vulture, insects like grasshoppers, snake, reptile, your earthworm, mouse. So all these are heterotrophs because they cannot produce their own food unlike the plants. So these are the two broad categories of classification based on the modes of nutrition, that is, how they get their food. Now, these heterotrophs, which are called as consumers, are further divided into different types. So, now we will be looking into that, how they are divided into different categories. So, now these consumers, which are the heterotrophs, are classified into two broad categories. that are biophages and saprophages. So, what are biophages? Biophages are the living organisms which consume living matter. Okay, it can be plants, it can be animals. So, anything which is living is consumed by these consumers. So, they are called as biophages, and these are the consumers called saprophages, which consume dead matter. So, it does not consume living matter, it consumes dead matter. That is, after the living organism is dead. So, that's why they are called as saprophages. So, under the consumers of living matter, that are the biophages, we have herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. What are herbivores? Herbivores are someone who eats only plants. So, they have plant based diet. So, that's why they are called herbivores. So, carnivores are someone who eat only meat. So, they hunt the living organisms and they eat. So, they eat meat, they do not eat plants. So, that's why they are called carnivores. The last category is omnivores. These are who eat both plants as well as meat. For example, your fox is there, it eats rabbit as well as it eats plants. So, this is an omnivorous. Even the mouse eats grains and also eats other insects. So, mouse is also an omnivorous. So, carnivorous eagle does not eat any plant. So, that is carnivorous. It only eats meat. Similarly, rabbit only eats plants. It does not eat meat, so it's a herbivore. So now under the consumers of dead matter, that is saprophages, we have two types. One is detritivores and other one is scavengers. So scavengers, you know, the vulture is a scavenger. So it looks for the dead animals and eats its flesh. It does not hunt for living animals and eat it. It looks for dead organisms and eats them. Next is detritivores. These are example is earthworm, which eats all the dead matter, organic matter which is present in the soil. No, it eats that dead matter, all smaller chunks. It eats it and digests it. So detrivores also have a mouth and digestive system. So that's why it's also a consumer. So all these consumers have a digestive system and with the mouth they eat. That's why they are all called consumers. Okay. So next what we are going to see is we are going to look into the category called decomposers. So these decomposers, what they do? So they release digestive enzymes on the dead organic matter, and these digestive enzymes will digest that organic matter, and after that they absorb the nutrients. They do not have their own digestive system or mouth to eat the organic matter. So decomposers are different from the consumers. So they don't have any mouth to eat or digestive system. They just release digestive enzymes outside on the dead organic matter, and that organic matter is dissolved, and afterwards that nutrients are absorbed from it. So that is about the decomposers. So all the organisms which are dead will for surely go through this decomposition process. Next is the food chain. Okay. Now, if you look at the food chain, okay, so food chain is a linear sequence which simply shows which organism eats which other organism, as well as how the energy is transferred from one organism to the next organism in the food chain. So it's just a linear sequence showing us how the energy is passed from one organism to another. So if you see here, this is an example of one of the food chains. Okay. So here if you see, first we have the primary producers grass. So it produces its own food. That's why it's called the producer, and it's the primary producer. It gets energy from the sun, takes water, carbon dioxide, and by photosynthesis produces its own food. So this comes under the trophic level 1. We were discussing about the trophic level. So because this position is the first position, so this gets the trophic level 1 position. So all the producers are always in the trophic level 1. Next is the trophic level 2. This occupies the second position, the grasshopper, which eats grass. So this is also called the primary consumers. So what are primary consumers? Primary consumers are always the herbivores, which eat plants, have a plant-based diet. So primary consumers are always herbivores. Now the next level, trophic level 3, it occupies the third position in the food chain. The frog eats the grasshopper, which is called the secondary consumer. This is a carnivore because it eats another living organism meat. So it's eating meat, so it becomes a carnivore, and it is the secondary consumer. Next comes the trophic level 4. Next level, this is called the tertiary consumers. The snake eats the frog. So this is the carnivore. Finally, it comes the trophic level 5, eagle, and it is called the quaternary consumer or apex predator. So the last level, it does not have any predator on top of eagle. There is no other organism which hunts for eagle and eats it. So it's called the apex predator also. Based on the position, it's called quaternary consumer, and this is also a carnivore. So if you see, this is a food chain which is showing us which animal is eating whom, and also it shows us the transfer of energy. How? With this arrow, if you see, the energy is transformed from grass to grasshopper, from grasshopper to frog, from frog to snake, and from snake to eagle. So that is how the energy is transferred from one organism to another. So the food chain helps us understanding the feeding habits of the animals, as well as how the nutrients and the energy is transferred from one organism to another in the ecosystem. So let us take another food chain. So this is another food chain. So here we have again grass. The rabbit eats the grass, trophic level 1, trophic level 2, and the fox is the secondary consumer which feeds on the rabbit. So this is another simple food chain showing us which organism eats which other organism. Next comes your food web. So what so now you are seeing the food web. Okay. So in this food web, if you see, it is a what is a food web? It is a complex interconnected food chains. So we are having several food chains which are all interconnected because one organism does not depend on a single organism for its food. For example, eagle is there, it consumes snake as well as rabbit. The fox is there, it consumes no mouse as well as rabbit. The Rat is there, it consumes butterfly or it consumes grass. So frog is there, it is being consumed by snake. Frog consumes grasshopper as well as butterfly. So food web is nothing but an interconnected network of food chains which are all giving it as web like structure. So see, all are interconnected and it gives a web like structure. That's why it's called a food web. And this is the actual real picture of our ecosystem. So food chain just shows you one particular sequence or one particular type of diet of an organism, but food web shows all possible diets that particular organism has and how complex the network is and how the multiple food chains are all interconnected. So if you see here grasshopper, frog, snake, eagle, fox, mouse, butterfly, grass, rabbit, you can see all different food chains from here. Mouse consumes grass, fox consumes rabbit, rabbit consumes grass, fox consumes rabbit. So it is an complex interconnected network of food chains. So now if you see here the entire food web, if any of the animal dies, the vulture is the one which looks for dead animals. So it consumes the dead animals' meat. So it's a scavenger. So vulture is a scavenger. So any of the animals in this food web die, the vulture looks for the bigger flesh and bigger animal flesh and it eats that meat. And earthworms are the next set after the vulture feeds on the large chunks of meat. The earthworm digests the smaller chunks of no dead meat and or the waste of all these animals. The earthworms, no, they eat and digest that smaller organic matter inside the soil. And the fungi and bacteria finally digest the remaining organic matter and consume the nutrients for their body. So this is how the entire ecosystem works, where all the animals depend on each other for their food. So that is a food web. Okay. So next, what we are going to see is the ecological pyramids. Ecological pyramids. What are those ecological pyramids? So ecological pyramids are the graphical representation. Okay, it will show us how your energy is distributed, how your biomass of the different organisms in different trophic levels is distributed, how their numbers are distributed across various trophic levels in an ecosystem. So we saw the trophic levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But how these things called energy, biomass, and numbers are distributed among those category of organisms. That's what we are going to see. The first ecological pyramid is pyramid of energy. Okay, we will see the pyramid of energy. Now, if you see here, this is the typical pyramid of energy. Here, the primary producers, okay, the plants and here we are taking example grass. Sun, from sun the energy is passed on to the producers, primary producers, which is grass. Then it is being consumed by the uh, s- next trophic level primary consumers, then consumed by the secondary consumers, and then by the tertiary consumers, eagle. The secondary consumers are snakes. Now what is happening is, this is, see, the energy is being passed from here to here, from here to here, and then from secondary to tertiary. So finally it reaches the tertiary. And and each level, what we you have observed here is, you can see here 100%, 10%, 1%, 0.1%. That is, if plants are observing 100% of energy, only 10% is passed to the next level. That is the 10 percentage energy rule. Only 10 percentage of whatever energy is there in the first trophic level to the next trophic level, always 10% of energy only is passed from one trophic level to next trophic level. 100% does not get passed here. Only 10% gets passed. So how much ever grass you eat, only 10% will be passed here. So it has to eat so much grass to get 100% of energy. So after that 10 percentage, the next level it goes, it changes to 1 percentage, because only out of the 10%, only 10 percentage of 10 percentage is sent to secondary consumers, and then from tertiary it reaches only 0.1 percentage energy. So by the time it reaches eagle, it has only 0.1 percentage of energy reaching from the first level. What happens, the remaining 90% in each level is lost by the way of heat and waste at each trophic level, because they have to consume energy for their activities, right? Like breathing, they're doing, they are growing, moving, they are hunting, jumping, all these they require energy. So 90% is energy is lost by their metabolism, their digestion, their breathing, all their activities, it is lost, and only 10% gets passed to the next level. So imagine if now we are having eagle, it has only 0.1 percentage. To reach 100 percentage, it has to eat so many amounts of snakes into 100. So 100 snakes it has to eat so that it gets 100 percentage of um, energy. So, but what happens if it's able to eat 100 percentage of 100 snakes? It will survive for all 100 years. But if it's not able to get enough snakes, so all the eagles are there, they might not get enough 100 snakes. Each eagle cannot get. So here the concept arises, the survival of the fittest. So whichever the eagle is able to get no a lot of snakes to eat, it will be surviving longer compared to the other eagles. So survival of the fittest. That's why the population is under control. In case there were the whole 100% was passed from this level to this level to this level, imagine how much how many rats will be there, how many snakes will be there, how many eagles will be there. There will be all unlimited number of eagles, snakes. So nothing will be under check in order to keep everything in check. So this is how the nature has designed. So energy gets only 10% of energy, whatever is consumed is passed to the next level. So because now the eagle does not get enough snakes, its population is under check. Similarly, the snakes will not get the enough rats to survive, so few snakes survive. Similarly, rats require as much as grass, so grass is reduced, then the rats will not have enough food to survive. So this is the pyramid of energy, which shows us how the energy is being passed from one trophic level to the next trophic level. So for example, here we are seeing here, if 10,000 joules of energy is passed from first level to the next level, only 1,000 joules are passed. Then to the next level, only 100 joules, and to the final level, only 10 joules of energy will be passed because of the 10% energy rule. Next is your pyramid of numbers. This is the next ecological pyramid, which shows the numbers. Now we have seen because the energy is reducing as we go up, and if you see the pyramid of numbers, if we see the primary producers or primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, or quaternary consumers, if you see for example here, the grass, if there are 1 million grass, so to that only 10,000 grasshoppers will be present, 100 frogs will be present, 10 snakes, and only one eagle. So for this many amount of grasshoppers, or this many amount of frogs, or this much amount of grass, you'll have only less number of organism as we move up the trophic levels. So that's why it gives a pyramid structure. So as we move up, the population is reducing. So that is the pyramid of numbers. So here the grasshoppers are reducing, the frogs are reducing. So these pyramids are made to understand the population of the different organism, how they are no distributed in this ecosystem. So this helps us to understand that okay, the carnivores, the topmost apex predator carnivores are less in number. So we know if they increase, it will no eat all the snakes, and there won't be anybody who is eating frogs, and frog population will increase, which in turn will eat all the grasshoppers. There will won't be any grasshoppers, and the vegetation will be no fully growing like wild. So it creates a domino kind of effect. To study all those things is what we are studying this pyramids, ecological pyramids. One first we saw the pyramid of energy, now it's the pyramid of numbers. Let us see a pyramid of numbers and another structure. So if you see here, this pyramid, okay, this is having a spindle shape. Spindle shape is it's small at the bottom, it's wider at the middle, and then it becomes small at the top again. So if here you see, this is an example of another ecosystem where you have the tree. One tree supports many primary consumers, many bugs, and secondary consumers are the birds. So it is population has reduced, and finally tertiary consumer is your eagle. We have one. So example, if you have one tree, we have 600 bugs. So it has broadened in between, and it's reducing. Now birds, we have only 15 birds and one eagle. So see how it is reducing the bird population. That is why it is called a spindle shaped pyramid. So in the pyramid of numbers, we have this type of ecosystem where the population varies like this also. Okay, it's not always the pyramid shaped structure. It could be spindle shaped as well. So next, if you see, we have the pyramid of biomass. This is the third and the last pyramid. So what happens in this pyramid of biomass? Here, the dried organism weight is taken into account, and we are seeing how it is spread. So if you see grass, the dry weight of the grass is 800 grams per meter square. So next comes so this is the pyramid of biomass. So here we saw the grass, dry weight of the grass is 100 grams per meter square. Now the grasshoppers, the weight of that grasshoppers, biomass of that is 80 grams per meter square. So biomass is the dried flesh and weight of that. So frogs, it comes to 12 grams per meter square, snakes 1.5 grams per meter square, and eagles zero point 0.1 grams per meter square. So that is how the weight of the biomass is distributed in the ecosystem of this grassland. So this is a pyramid which is representing the reduction of the mass as we go up the trophic levels. Okay, so that is the pyramid of biomass. So these are all the approximate or sample examples. See how much it is. It's not this weight actually when we go and weight, because there is grass is spread everywhere. This just an approximation, no? Just a numbering convention, no? Just to make you understand. Say if 800 grams are there, here only 80 is there, here 12. To show the difference, how much amount of reduction of mass is there as we move up the pyramid. So let us see one more pyramid. Now if you see here, same the pyramid of numbers, we saw the tree where it was taking a spindle shape. Now here, even though the numbers are no small, but the tree has biomass, huge biomass. It has nearly 1000 grams per meter square biomass. These bugs, even though they are multiple in number, their mass is very less, 50 grams per meter square. Similarly, secondary consumer birds, it reduces to 5 grams per meter square, and tertiary consumers zero point 0.1 grams per meter square. So this is how the biomass is reducing as we move up the trophic levels, and the producers are having the maximum biomass in both these pyramids. So similarly for each ecosystem, they trace down the pyramids of biomass or pyramids of numbers or the pyramids of energy, so that they understand the ecosystem and how these organisms are spread in the ecosystem. Now, next we'll see what are the reasons why we are studying this about this trophic ecology. Okay. So now as we saw, it helps us to understand the ecosystem collapse. That is, we saw the food chains. Okay. So let us go back and go to the food chain. Now, if you see the food chain here, example, now this is there. This by studying this food chain, food web, what it helps us is to understand the environmental collapse. For example, the ecosystem, the frogs vanish. So what happens? The snake does not have any food to eat. So the snake will die out of hunger. So now if snake is not there, this eagle will not have any food, so it will die out of hunger. Now because grass frogs are not there, grasshopper population will increase tremendously, and it will eat all the grass and entire vegetation will be spoiled. So it creates a domino effect. So by studying this food chain, the scientists are able to understand if no any of these organism is absent, it leads to a domino effect and in turn affecting the entire ecosystem. So what they will do, they will make sure the frog population is increased so that the ecosystem balance is maintained. So by studying this food chains, food web, it helps us in one way like this. The other one is something called as bioaccumulation. Okay. So what is bioaccumulation? So bioaccumulation is where, example, your small fish is eating mercury. So now that small fish is eaten by another big fish. That big fish eats another big fish. So by the time it reaches that big fish, it eats lot of the mercury, means the mercury concentration within its body will increase. So what will happen if this fish is consumed by humans? It will lead to health hazards. So it helps the scientists by studying this food chains, food web, and all these pyramids. It helps the scientists to track the bioaccumulation, and then the scientists can warn us, okay, don't eat this fish because it is having mercury inside it. So that's how it is maintaining the ecosystem. The other one is the wildlife conservation. How does it preserve the wildlife? Now if it sees that certain species is getting extinct, it can take steps to no prevent the extinction of that species. For example, we saw in the above food chain example, frog is not there. So because frog is not there, what will happen? The snakes will not have any food, and snakes will die, and it will lead to the extinction of eagle. So both these are going to become extinct. So scientists, by studying this food chain and what is happening in the ecosystem, they can make sure the population of the frogs is increased so that the snakes as well as the eagles are prevented from extinction. So this is how um, helps us in maintaining the ecosystem. So now hope you would have all understood the importance of studying the trophic ecology. So this is the reason we study about the trophic ecology, so that we understand all these things and help us human beings in maintaining the ecosystems. So that's all for today's session. Hope you would have enjoyed this session. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like my videos. Thank you.